Hey guys, and welcome back to the Political Whiz, where you will find all the whiz on politics and history. And today we will be taking a look into the Senate Republican primary runoff in Alabama, which will take place on July 14, 2020. And now let's take a look at the candidates' profiles. Jeff Sessions used to be the Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Alabama from 1981 to 1993. In 1986, former President Ronald Reagan nominated him to be the justice on the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Alabama. However, the nomination failed due to allegations of racism that came up against Sessions. Coretta Scott King, who was the wife of Martin Luther King, even wrote a letter to the Senate in which she made the case against Sessions, and due to this, his nomination failed. And it should be noted that when Sessions was being considered for the post of Attorney General under President Trump, Senate Democrats that opposed him read that letter of Coretta Scott King that she wrote at the time in 1986, making the case against him. He later served as the Attorney General for the state of Alabama from 1995 to 1997 and served for a short time because he was then elected to the United States Senate in 1996 from Alabama. He was Alabama Senator from 1997 to 2017. He resigned from the Senate to serve in the Trump administration. He was the Attorney General under President Trump from 2017 to 2018. He is now running for his Senate seat that he held for 20 years. Our next candidate is Tommy Tuberville. Tommy Tuberville was a former football coach. He first served as a coach in the University of Mississippi for 3 years from 1995 to 1998. He then served as a coach at Auburn University for 10 years from 1998 to 2008. He was the coach at Texas Tech for 2 years from 2010 to 2012 and finally served 3 years as a coach from 2013 to 2016 at the University of Cincinnati. One of his accomplishments of his career as a football coach was when he received the Walter Camp and Bear Bryant Awards in 2004, which was the year that Auburn University decisively won the Southeastern Conference title. He also used to be the president of American Football Coaches Association and formerly worked on ESPN. We will now take a look at the significance of this race. This election has gotten media attention, and that is simply for one reason, and that is President Trump. This primary is about which candidate is the closest and most supportive of President Trump. And clearly, after seeing both of the candidates' profiles, we can see that both candidates are from starkly unique professions. Jeff Sessions is a mainstream politician who has been in politics for about 40 years and is now running to get his old seat back. Tommy Tuberville, on the other hand, is a successful former football coach who has no political experience. In this election, Jeff Sessions has attacked Tuberville for not being an Alabama native, and Tuberville has attacked Sessions for not being supportive of President Trump when he was the Attorney General under him, and that's because when President Trump was being investigated for his ties with Russia, Sessions accused himself, and this infuriated Donald Trump, and for this reason, President Trump has endorsed Tuberville, which is what we will be looking at now. While I was doing my research in this election, of all the data that I took a look at, this one was intriguing to me. And this is because Jeff Sessions, who is a mainstream politician, has racked up endorsements from a number of Republican senators such as Alabama Senator Richard Shelby and from conservative commentators such as Laura Ingraham and Ann Coulter. On the other hand, Tommy Tuberville has endorsements from 3 important individuals, and one of them, like I said before, is President Trump. In previous videos that I have covered and other elections I have paid attention to, the candidate that racks up the most endorsements usually has a decent shot at winning the election, despite the fact that this piece of data is really not that important. The candidates with the least number of endorsements reflects that they're really not in this race and have no realistic chance of winning. Now, if we go by whatever I just said, then you might be thinking that Tuberville has no chance of winning and Jeff Sessions absolutely has a chance of winning this primary runoff, right? Actually, that's not the case. What's different in this election than other endorsements in other elections is the fact that President Trump has endorsed Tuberville, and that is what has really kept him in this race. Polls show that about 95% of Republicans support the president, so the president endorsing a Republican candidate is a really important factor in any Republican primary because most of the times, the Republican candidate that gets the president's endorsements ends up winning. And now we will be taking a look at the money raised by each campaign. Tuberville has raised close to $4 million and Jeff Sessions has raised half of that amount, about $2 million. That's not good if you're someone who has served about 40 years in politics and you were outraised by a political outsider. So I believe that this piece of data is really in favor of Tuberville. We will now look at the polling data of this race. In this election, Tuberville has consistently led Sessions and has a solid lead over the former senator. Now, there were times when Sessions narrowed Tuberville's lead. However, Tuberville's lead over Sessions has been, for the most part, consistent, and this is not surprising, keeping in view once again that President Trump has endorsed Tuberville over Sessions, and Donald Trump has almost unanimous support from his own party. So that's why these polls aren't so surprising. Moving on now to the Republican primary results. Based on these results, it shows that the top two victors that emerged was Tuberville and Sessions. Bradley Byrne had a strong third-place finish and performed well in the southwestern section of the state. Also, Tuberville emerged first place in the election, and although you might think that this is good news for him, that's really debatable because some people might think that this is good news for Tuberville since he performed better than a 40-year-old mainstream politician despite his status as a political outsider. However, there are some that might say that those are only the initial results, and since it will now be a matchup between Sessions and Tuberville, Sessions might be able to garner more support from eliminated candidates and could perform better than Tuberville. However, I honestly don't see a possibility of that happening. Finally, we will wrap things up with my analysis. This is a Republican primary that has not only garnered media attention, but is also a competitive primary. Sessions has served for about 40 years in public service, and Tuberville has no political experience, which are two totally different profiles. Both candidates have attempted to appeal to Alabamians by trying to portray their close ties with the president. Based on all the data that we have taken a look at, Tuberville has an advantage in this election. In addition, 95% of Republicans support Donald Trump, and for this reason, President Trump's endorsement is very important and he endorsed Tuberville. And based on everything that we have seen, I honestly believe that Tommy Tuberville has a shot at winning this Republican primary runoff. Although the data is in his favor, I personally want to add that I don't think Alabamians want to elect the same person that has been in public service for decades and would want a change in leadership or an outsider this time. And Tommy Tuberville is the political outsider. And now, I ask you, who do you think will win the Senate Republican primary runoff in Alabama? Make sure to make your comments down below. In the meantime, that's all for now. Like, subscribe, and share this video. Turn on the bell icon to be notified whenever I post. Please comment or suggest down below as this will help me improve my future videos. Follow me on Twitter at political_whiz. Thanks for watching.